Let me start by saying good afternoon to each of you. I am proud to be with you here on today, where you will hear about the detailed changes in the city's diversity, equity, and inclusion and procurement policies in the aftermath of several critical court decisions in the federal courts, including the U.S. Supreme Court. And ultimately, I, as mayor of the city of Philadelphia, will sign a new executive order outlining a new way of doing business with small and local businesses here in the city of Philadelphia. The first person you'll hear from will be our city solicitor, Renee Garcia. She'll walk through a legal explainer with you. Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley will give a broader view. Nadir Jones, we're so grateful to have you. He is our Director of Business Impact and Supplier Diversity. He will give you details about the new program. Again, focused very specifically on small and local businesses. And Donna Jackson Stevens, who is our Chief DEI Officer, you will hear from her to give you an overview of that DEI perspective. But before you hear from anyone, Chairman Sanders, along with Regina Hairston, I want to say a special thank you to both of you for allowing us to have this presser here on the day with the African American Chamber of Commerce. And I want you to know, us asking you if we could come to your house to do this, we're very intentional. Just like the new way of doing business we are going to describe here on today. This is also a follow-up because I see some people who were with us on yesterday evening when we had the opportunity to actually be in my former council district, the 9th Councilmanic District, in a small business on Wadsworth Avenue, having basically a discussion and sharing directly with business owners who would be affected by our change in doing business. With that being said, I want to start with our city solicitor, Renee Garcia.
Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon to you all. That's okay. My job as city solicitor is to assess risk for the city of Philadelphia and to provide the best legal guidance to my clients that protects the city's legal interest, that ensures compliance with the law, that safeguards public resources, including taxpayer dollars, and to help the city operate responsibility and effectively. There is a point where the risk becomes so high that we have to pivot, and that is the case here. I'm going to walk you through the legal challenges that led us here today. The first inflection point was in June of 2023. That's when the federal landscape in this area changed by the Supreme Court handing down the SFFA case. That's the Students for Fair Admissions. You might know it as the Harvard case or the affirmative action case. Applying strict scrutiny, the decision meant that race-based presumptions would no longer withstand constitutional scrutiny. What is strict scrutiny? Let me explain it to you. It's called a daunting two-step examination of programs that favor one race over another. There's two parts. One, the program must further a compelling government interest. And number two, the program must be narrowly tailored, meaning must be necessary to achieve that interest. Compelling government interest means to remediate discrimination by the government. Let me say that again. Remediate discrimination by the government, not discrimination throughout society. The court was very clear on this. This is not something that we can do in order to fix decades of systemic racism that we know exists out in society, in particular industries. Number two, had to be narrowly tailored means that it's necessary, that we've tried race-neutral alternatives that have not worked, that we have removed all race-neutral factors and there's still a disparity, and that the program is time-bound in nature. They limited the ability to have these programs so much that strict scrutiny is now called fatal in fact, meaning programs are not going to survive. And that is what we saw from 2023 to 2024, a deluge of cases where programs were knocked down throughout the country. The USDA, the US Department of Transportation, the SBA, the Minority Business Development Agency, and even private foundations all fell. And then in 2024, it was our turn. We had a case that had been going on since actually 2019. It was a case involving our project labor agreements. We had won at the district court level on the issue of standing and had gone up, and the Third Circuit, reviewed all of the claims, including the equal protection claim. And what they said was that our program that favored MWBEs, although the goals were aspirational, although we were using best effort standards, it was facially discriminatory. Automatically, we're in strict scrutiny. Now, I just told you about strict scrutiny. Fatal, in fact. We were not going to survive, and the PLA verbiage mirrors exactly our OEO program. And that is when I went to the mayor. This was December of last year, and I said, we have a bigger problem. What the court just held in our circuit, the binding federal law on the city of Philadelphia, is going to present legal risk. And as competent and brilliant as my people are, I went to a higher level of expertise. I went to hire what I call my genius attorneys. They're at a law firm called Hecker Fink in DC, and they are all Supreme Court clerks, all of them. And they handle the most difficult cases and issues in the entire country when it comes to constitutional law. And we went back and forth for months trying to figure out what this meant. Could we get around it? Could we save the program? And we came to the conclusion that we were at the end legally, that we had hit an obstacle that could not be overcome with the current program. And that was because we were not going to be able to show government discrimination, intentional government discrimination. We've had a program for 40 years. We were not going to be able to show our program was narrowly tailored. It's over-inclusive and under-inclusive. And we know there are other factors in place that are creating the barriers, right? We know that we have a problem with procurement. We know we have a problem getting people paid. We know people are having difficulty even responding to RFPs. We were not going to meet the legal standard. And so in those months, what we did in the law department was we worked with my new colleague, Nadir Jones, who had experience in this, and we developed what we think was an even better program, a small and local business program. And in June, we went to the mayor, and I went in that meeting with backup, right? I brought my genius attorneys with me. There's a young woman, Carmen Iguana Gonzalez, who had clerked for Sonia Sotomayor. And although the mayor's not an attorney, she did one hell of a cross-examination. She asked question after question after question because she did not want to do this, right? I would say you were in anguish. But this is the way forward. This is how we're going to have a better program. We're going to be legally compliant. We're going to do it on our terms, and we're going to realize the mayor's vision of economic opportunity for all. And one more important point, we're still going to collect the data, because I need to make sure that the new program that we're standing up is not discriminatory, right? Because that's a different argument. And if we see the numbers, we pivot again and we innovate, because that's what we have to do. We've been trying to do this for 40 years and having the same conversation, and it hasn't been working. And now I'm going to call up Chief Deputy Vanessa Garrett Harley, so she can talk a little bit more about that. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. As you just heard from our city solicitor, we were forced. Ultimately, we felt forced to make the changes to our minority women and disabled business program in order to comply with federal law, as outlined by both the Supreme Court and the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. But despite these changes, as I stand here today, I can assure you that neither Mayor Parker, myself, or the Parker administration has stepped back from our responsibility to direct resources where they are needed the most. We're committed to investing in not just the residents of the city, but our businesses of the city, particularly those who need the most help, right? When I took this job as Chief Deputy Mayor, it was a little over a year ago, and one of the first things Mayor Parker asked me to do was take a look at the city's Minority Business Success Program. She was very concerned because she was still getting feedback from businesses in the city, particularly African-American businesses and other businesses of color, that the program was not working, that they weren't seeing progress, they were not moving ahead, and they still weren't getting the access to the city contracts that they should have been able to get, right? And so when I first, started looking at it, I immediately said, we got problems. There was a lot of work being done, but it was being done in different places. We had the Office of Economic Opportunity was sitting in our Commerce office. The Office of Minority Business Success was an office that was sitting in the portfolio that I had just assumed. We had DEI somewhere else. We had other pieces in Commerce. We had other pieces in all different places. And when things are that siloed and they're not working together, they're not going to work. In my head, to be successful, we had to have at a minimum that Office of Economic Opportunity partnered with the like Office of Minority Business Success, or more importantly, the office which we now call, and which we have changed the intent to be more intentional about it, the Office of Business Growth. After studying everything, I actually came up with the structure of the Office of Business Impact and Economic Advancement, which is one of the things that we'll be codifying in this executive order today when the mayor signs it. But we moved the Office of OEO from Commerce and put it under that umbrella. We also then developed the Office of Business Growth, because that's what we want to see businesses do, is grow and thrive and strive, right? And we put them together. Why is that important? The framework we're building has to be able to live past any one person, any one individual, any one leader. But we all know that leadership is important and intentionality is important. So to put it all together under one umbrella made a lot more sense, where you could make sure that we're able to leverage resources in the way that is best for everyone. So also I have in my portfolio the Mayor's Office of Business Roundtables, where we have a pathway to and from to get feedback from businesses in a way that we had not had before. I have the Office of Strategic Partnerships, which is where we do the public-private partnerships, which are going to be crucial to this program that we're laying out, because the city just does not have enough money to do this by itself. And so we have to get our corporate partners, our philanthropic partners, and others to step up to help us move this along in the right direction. And then I had the Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion under me. So it made sense to have them all under one umbrella where they work together and we can ensure that we're leveraging the resources of all of these departments together. The other thing that I did was take a really comprehensive and close look at the current program that we had under MWDBE. And to be quite honest, it was not working. We've had it for 40 years. And if you talk to businesses in this city, all of us know I've been born and bred here. I've been at the city for 25 years, been in different positions at the city, mostly leadership positions. And I can tell you that the narrative had not changed. Folks were not feeling it and were not seeing the difference in it. When we went back and looked, we got a certain number in our database of certified MWBE businesses, but only 20% of those were getting the active contracts. So I got 80% in that database that were not getting the active contracts. We cannot say that program was working. That's right. We cannot. The overwhelming majority of the folks who were getting or were benefiting the most turned out to be white women when we looked at the demographic, right? And not that we don't want them to progress, but it was still missing a large caveat of the reason that it was designed in the beginning to help folks who were struggling in a different way, right? And so then the other thing that we did as we were building this small local business program, and Nadir is going to come up in a minute and give you the real details about that, was try and look at our database to see how inclusive would it be, or how painful or impactful would it be one way or another if we built that small and local business database. And I'm willing to say, I would say all, but somebody's going to hold me to that. And the lawyer that I am, I never, not leave me a little bit of room to wiggle, right? But the overwhelming majority of those programs that are currently certified in the Minority Women database will also be able to be certified as small and local businesses. And so they will be able to benefit from this new program with the level of intentionality and commitment that the mayor has given to be able to give us the staffing and everything else that we need in order to make that program more successful. The other key thing was having a leader that could stand the program up. And so we went looking and was lucky enough to find Nadir Jones. Nadir has stood up these programs in New York, in New Jersey, globally, and other places, small local business programs. He's been in the civil rights offices of some of these bigger companies, developing all of these kind of programs, and we knew that he could do it here and do what we needed to do. And in a short amount of months, he really has come up with a creation that we are proud of and we think will work here, that we're putting those finishing touches on. And then we also wanted to bring along our Department of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. We have Donna Jackson Steffens here. Donna was the VP in doing the diversity and equity work at the airport, where she stood up some businesses that are very successful down at the airport, the small local business program, trying to get at that demographic. She also comes in from Texas, was in Texas during the time when this kind of stuff first started. And most of you may know Texas is kind of the blueprint for a lot of the stuff we see in here now in the current landscape. And if you know how to navigate it down there, it could be very helpful for helping us make sure we know how to navigate it here. And so we brought her in as well. Now, you couple all of that with the fact that we have a new procurement and contract commissioner who is working very hard to revamp that program. Because part of that, the whole situation we're looking at, you heard the solicitor refer to it. You'll hear the mayor talk about it. We recognize that we have problems, because if you don't admit your problems, you can't fix them, right? We have problems with the entire bureaucratic system and the way that we do contracts and RFPs and how long it takes and the barriers for a lot of businesses, particularly if you're smaller and you don't have the administrative backbone and the infrastructure to do all of these things that we require you to do to even comply, you got a problem, right? And the payment. Our payments are too slow. We're trying to work on that. We recognize that's a huge part of the problem that we have to address. And so Ron is doing all of that stuff and working in conjunction with Nadir Jones, who I'm going to ask to come up now to really just talk about what we have going. But I leave you with what we want to do. And look, we were working on this, like I said, about a year ago when I first came in. So it didn't just happen because of where we are now. However, I would be lying to say that this sort of the legal landscape that the city solicitor brought in when she brought it to the mayor just a short time ago and said, you have no choice, right? I was there in that meeting when we brought in those, experts from DC, and you're looking for credibility and you're looking for what kind of a lawyer would tell you what. You certainly, and people are saying, oh, it was a conservative move. It was a conservative way of looking at the law. I've been a lawyer 30-something years. I looked at it myself, but I'm not a constitutional law expert. So I, along with the mayor, said we need a second opinion. That's why we brought in the people from DC and the individual, as you heard the city solicitor say, who said to the mayor, you have no other choice. She asked the mayor the question in 5 different ways. You have no other choice, she said. She had clerked for Justice Sotomayor. She's currently at the ACLU. So this was not somebody who would have had a conservative mindset, right? Which was all the more reason. If we got people on all sides, moderates, conservative, and now who would definitely be considered more liberal or progressive, saying you have no other choice, then we got to pivot and do what we have to do to protect the fiscal responsibility of the city of Philadelphia. So Nadir.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor. So, I'm Nadir Jones. I'm the Director of the Office of Business Impact and Economic Advancement. Yeah, so before I was appointed by Madam Mayor Parker, I worked at the world's largest commercial real estate investment firm called CBRE Group, where I led their project management team building out their global supply diversity. Prior to that, I directed the Office of Disadvantaged Business Enterprise Programs for New Jersey Department of Transportation. And then prior to that, I was one of the architects of the New York MTA Small Business Mentoring Program, where we decided to take $1 billion of our capital budget and unbundle those infrastructure projects into smaller construction projects, so our MWBs had an opportunity to bid as prime contractors. So it's an honor to work for you, Madam Mayor. And I think with this new small and local business program, we have an opportunity to take Philadelphia to the next level, because we've been trying for the past 40 years and it hasn't been working. Philadelphia's been worked dead last, 50 out of 50, when it comes to innovation and economic mobility with certain city region agencies. So we still want to drive innovation in the city. We still want to create life-sustaining jobs. And we still want to expand opportunities. Under this new program, the City of Philadelphia departments will invest in businesses that are small and local. We would define small businesses using a 3-tier model: emerging small business, mid-sized business, and middle market small businesses. Businesses can also qualify as being local by being headquartered in the City of Philadelphia. And if they're not headquartered here in the City of Philadelphia, they can meet that requirement in 2 ways. Either 60% of their employees live in the City of Philadelphia, or half of their employees work in the city at least 60% of the time. We will continue to set narrowly tailored ranges and targets for city procurements based on small local business availability. We will establish bid preferences for local businesses. We're not abandoning the businesses in the city that has worked in the past. In fact, like Chief Deputy Mayor Garrett Harley mentioned, the majority of our MBEs will qualify as small businesses. With this new strategy, we'll be able to create this base to create a new array of new vendors. Also working through the Office of Business Growth and our Supply PHL partners, we will institutionalize measurable and real capacity building programs to address the barriers preventing our small local business community from increasing market share and thriving in the community. This program will focus on quality over compliance by helping small businesses build capacity over time to become prime contractors and not simply regulated to being subcontractors on public projects. We will establish a business growth pipeline program that monitors participating businesses quarterly, using quarterly key performance indicators, revenue growth, employee count, contract values, and market penetration. Our new method of tracking will allow the city to identify high potential firms and provide stage-appropriate interventions, such as bonding assistance, working capital, contract bid coaching, designed to help our small businesses grow into sustainable regional contractors. This program would serve as a dedicated mechanism to track the growth trajectory of business to business and business to institutional suppliers and provide targeted services to help them scale to mid-market and institutional procurements. This is not an eradication of a program. This is an evolution that will build more growth to Philadelphia's business economy. So with that being said, I'd like to introduce my colleague, Chief DEI Officer, Donna Stevens-Jackson.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. So I am Donna Jackson Steffens. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the Chief Diversity Equity Officer, and it is a pleasure to speak with you today. So DEI has been on the top of minds for a lot of us. If you are with a city entity, if you're with a university, if you're with a public serving entity, it has been part of your conversation, and we are all wrestling with the challenges that come in this new day and era. Every major city. And so I want to start off just by addressing some common misconceptions. So a lot of times people think of affirmative action and DEI as being interchangeable, but they are not. So affirmative action was put in place and was created because of centuries of historic injustices that built a playing field that advantaged some and disadvantaged others. And these programs were shaped by laws and by policies and by court rulings, and they opened the door. I have to say, they opened the door for many of us that never would have opened otherwise. And then there is diversity, equity, and inclusion, so DEI as we know it today. And DEI is not a law. It is not a mandate. It is a set of values. It's a set of practices. It's how we do business. It's nothing more than saying that, our differences make us stronger, saying that responsible government puts resources where they are needed most, and that community, true community, is the only way that a city thrives. And somehow these two terms have become interchangeable. But the truth is that DEI is a relatively new term. I mean, it's only been around maybe a little bit over a decade or more. But the work behind it, the humanity behind it, has been around for a long time. And many of you were doing that work long before it was called DEI. Many of you were raised with the same teachings that we were raised with that said, you love your neighbors like yourself, right? You love your neighbors. that you love them in spite of the fact that they may be different, that they may have different thoughts, different beliefs, different neighborhoods, different wherever they come from. You love them as yourself. And that's diversity in practice. You know, equity, on the other hand, is about meeting people where they are and providing what they need in order to thrive. So for instance, if there was a power outage in a single neighborhood, you don't send crews to every neighborhood. You send your crews to the neighborhood to address where the outage is. And so when you do that, you take your resources, your finite resources, and you put them where they're most needed, where they'll do the best job. And inclusion, well, that's just Philadelphia, right? So we are the city of brotherly love. We are the city of sisterly affection. That's our identity. That's who we are. You know, we are the home of one of the first intentionally integrated neighborhoods in the nation, Mount Airy. And so that's who we are. It's built in our DNA. And so as we think about the term DEI, it's not a program. It's not a mandate. It's a value. It's who we are. And so let me just talk about that. Let me be honest that this work is changing. It is evolving, but it always has. After Reconstruction, it evolved. After the Civil Rights Movement, it evolved. It was not called DE&I. After Stonewall, after all of the many movements, it has evolved. It continues to evolve, and it is evolving now. And so as we move towards initiatives like the Small and Local Business Program, and as we prepare for the many changes that may come, and we suspect there will be others, we just want to take some time to remember that when these programs were put in place, that we were not at the table, or someone who looked like me was not at the table, more than likely. When these programs were put in place, the communities that were impacted may not have been at the table. But now we have this opportunity. We have this opportunity to build programs that we're shaping from the beginning. We're building fairness in from the beginning. We're not building fairness and retrofitting it. Building a program and retrofitting it for fairness and justice. We're baking it into the beginning of these programs. And so we are excited about that opportunity that we find in this moment. So yes, affirmative action will continue to shape and change and evolve as our laws and our court rulings change, but our commitment to fairness and to opportunity is unwavering. Thank you.
I'm telling you, let me move this over here. First, I'm going to ask you all to give my team a round of applause. I'm so proud of each of you. You've already heard from our city solicitor, Renee Garcia, our city's chief legal officer, upon whose legal advice I have relied upon in this very important policy matter. To our solicitor and to Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley, thank you for also affirming that, like any patient who gets a diagnosis that they are not pleased with, that we did seek a second opinion. And thank you for telling us. So what's the name of the firm again? Hecker and Fink. You call them who? The genius attorneys, where almost all of them have clerked for United States Supreme Court justices. And I can't think of a better entity to seek that second opinion from. And the young lady, the attorney who joined us, her name again? Carmen, I remember that meeting clearly. And again, although she's not with the firm, she made a transition and she's now with the ACLU. I believed in her then, Renee, and I believe in her now. You've heard from our subject matter experts on our DEI and procurement and contracting policies as a city. And you've heard Nadir Jones, our Director of Business Impact and Supplier Diversity. Nadir, thank you for saying yes, and no matter what happens, you can't change your mind. And to Donna Jackson Stevens, who is our Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer. We are so happy to have you on our side of the team. Atif, I'm sorry. And then a Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley, whose portfolio includes DE&I and economic opportunity. In a few minutes, Philadelphia, I'm going to sign an executive order. And now let me just share a few thoughts with all of you before we get to that point, relative to these issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Issues around diversity and economic opportunity in particular, and the awarding of city contracts are issues that I am very familiar with. Why? Because I have fought for them and worked on them throughout my career, first as a staffer in the City Council of Philadelphia, second as a member of the Pennsylvania General Assembly in Harrisburg, and then during my tenure as a member of the City Council of Philadelphia representing the 9th District, and as the council majority leader working in partnership and under the leadership of our former council president, Darrell Clark, and now as almost 2 years as mayor of the city of Philadelphia. It's important for me to quickly take you on a stroll through my history, because I've been here long enough to not simply listen to what people say, but to watch what they do. In Philadelphia, I need to give you a snapshot of my work, Sherelle Parker, as an elected official here in the city of Philadelphia, and just a snapshot of what that work has looked like. First, I want you to think about a program called the SABRE Grant Program, $2.5 million that was operationalized by our city's Commerce Department and supported barbershops and beauty supply entities in particular who were struggling during and immediately after COVID. We operationalized that program in record time to ensure that those dollars were getting directly to the businesses and the neighborhoods and the zip codes who we know needed it most. Next, Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley, when you were giving your remarks and you talked about sort of the technical capacity of all businesses not being created equal, I thought to myself, you are exactly right, because that's where the Power Up Your Business program that I authored during my tenure in City Council to provide a lifeline of technical support and help for neighborhood small businesses that would ultimately become the chief feeder for the Goldman Sachs 10KSB, that's their 10,000 Small Businesses program. Our Power Up Your Business program became the feeder for small business owners attempting to improve their technical capacity. What do you mean technical? Not all small businesses have an accountant on retainer. So who's managing your finances? And you're trying to run the business, but you also need some help with the books. So not all of them had an accounting. And then not all of them had an attorney on a retainer. We wanted the Power Up Your Business program to assist them peer-to-peer counseling, but providing access and technical support to them. Then there's a legendary gentleman here in the city of Philadelphia by the name of the late, great Dr. Walter P. Lomax. And for me, transparency in local government was extremely important because I said to myself, it shouldn't be a secret when it comes to figuring out who's been benefiting for generations from the ability to do business with the city of Philadelphia. And why do I have to have a PhD in technical research to try to find the data? And so when I was in council, I authored the Walter P. Lomax Transparency in Business Act that would ensure that all city contracts over $100,000, that the demographic information associated with those businesses that were afforded the opportunity, all of that would be readily available. But now that I'm mayor, I get an opportunity, whereas Kristen, to make sure that that is done in a very transparent and simple way. And we will use our technology that's readily available to make sure that data doesn't go sit on somebody's shelf to collect dust. Next, I authored the foundational guidance for the diversity and inclusion program that is a part of what we now call Rebuild. That is a legendary and legacy program authored by my predecessor, former Mayor Jim Kenney. Amazing goals and objectives to help rebuild our parks, rec centers, and libraries. But while we were going through that matter in council, we needed to know, how are we going to diversify the pipeline, particularly as it related to the building trades? And not just the building trades, what about about professional services associated with standing up that program. I was proud to author that resolution when I was in council. Most recently, as your mayor, you just saw it with the comprehensive city program for SNAP beneficiaries that we stood up, a $14 million program to help those most in need during the crisis that we witnessed during the government shutdown as a result of us not having a federal budget. Next, improving neighborhood commercial quarters and the businesses that live and grow there. My wheelhouse, long before it was fashionable for it to be done and for people to talk about these issues of Philadelphia. Why is it important for me to affirm these issues here on today? Like, for example, our FY25 budget that invested $1 million in the Accelerator Fund, which provides access to capital for developers from historically disadvantaged groups. Why? Because, smart enough to listen to one of the anchors. I can't think about these issues that we're dealing with in contracts and doing business with the city without thinking about Leon Sullivan, without thinking about Charlie Bowser, without thinking about former council member Wilson Good Jr., who made it his priority to address these issues. And then there's a lady by the name of Della Clark, who is clearly an authority here in the city of Philadelphia, who would tell me programs and training are nice, but none of it will matter if capital is not available to those businesses. In addition to that, we invested another $1 million in the Innovate Capital Growth Fund, which provides diverse entrepreneurs access to equity investments. Philadelphia, I needed to share this with you so that you know I am not new to this fight. You've heard all weekend from the chattering class about this issue. On today, I'm here to talk about our future together and how we will turn what has become a national crisis into an opportunity here in the city of Philadelphia for minority-owned businesses, local and small businesses. We are also going to formally and officially sign an executive order today, starting us on this new path. Now, we need to be on this path together. And this is what I affirmed last night. Legally, we need to make a shift to be in compliance with federal court orders, including a ruling from the U.S. Supreme Court. But long before that, we've all known that the programs that we had in place were not working. Now, Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley, when you gave that, 20% of the people who were in our registry had the opportunity to do business, in my mind, I started thinking, now, if you were a part of that 20%, change is probably difficult. Because when you think about the fact that only 20% were getting access to the opportunity to do business, and 80%, that means 80% of those on the registry weren't doing business with the city of Philadelphia, then you might be up in arms. Instead of being the eternal optimist and viewing this as a good thing for the city of Philadelphia, you may have already written this story. You may have already buried us before we've gotten started, and I can't do anything about that to change that. I can only tell you about what will be intentional and what will happen with this amazing team of subject matter experts, and I'm happy that Ron Holvey, our new procurement commissioner, is here with us on today. The old programs aren't working. The studies show it, and we know it, Philadelphia. They weren't working. We knew we needed to shift our strategy before it even became a legal necessity to do so. And I didn't even realize until you affirmed it, Vanessa, that, wait a minute, I'm the creator of the Office of Minority Business Success. That's a commitment that I made, Philadelphia, when I asked you to give me the honor and privilege of serving as your mayor, that would be a commitment of mine. And I created that office upon being sworn in on January the 2nd in 2024. But even as we created the office, the siloed approach that Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Hartley very meticulously outlined for you, it was not working because the city of Philadelphia wasn't organized and structured in a way that allowed us to be prepared to deliver success, unless you were a part of the Fortunate 20. The old system is a broken system. And now it's our job and our responsibility to fix it. And that is exactly what we are going to do. The reality is Philadelphia's DEI and contracting policies are in violation of a U.S. Supreme Court ruling from 2023 in a case involving Harvard University's admissions policies. We are following the strict advice of our chief legal officer, our city solicitor, Renee Garcia, as well as the outside counsel that we affirmed. Now, I didn't write those laws, Philadelphia. I don't even support them. I don't agree with them. But as the mayor of the city of Philadelphia, it is my job as the leader in this city to make sure we are governing ourselves accordingly. And that's the way we will fight. It is my job to adjust any programs or policies that put the city of Philadelphia at risk of violating federal court orders and or rulings. It is also my responsibility to ensure that Philadelphia is generating outcomes for small and local businesses that are consistent with our city's values. Donna, that's why I guess I was so glued to what you were saying about DEI representing our values. It should be embedded in all that we do here in the city. And Renee, when you mentioned that we will measure in such a way that it will be transparent and you will know what our results are. So it's my mission to help to start and grow small and local businesses in Philadelphia. It is true. And I don't want to run from this. I want to be very direct so you all are clear and no one walks away with any confusion. We are at war with the current system. We are at war with the status quo because it just was not working here in the city of Philadelphia. But to our business community, our local and small businesses here in the city of Philadelphia, help is on the way. And the individuals that you just heard from, they are the people who will lead this effort on behalf of the city of Philadelphia in my administration. As your mayor, I come to you as someone who has fought to build a seat at the table for underrepresented people every day of my career. There is no one who needs to give me a speech or have me to read a white paper on what it's like to navigate a world at the intersection of race and gender, because I've done it. Add someone who comes from a socioeconomic status that I come from, where I know what it's like to grow up on public assistance and where life for me ain't been no crystal stair. I know the struggles, and that's why my values are represented in the process and the protocols that we are going to implement that are representative in this executive order that I am going to sign. I'm not new to this fight. When it comes to women, people of color, people in the LGBTQIA plus community, I'm in this fight and I've been a part of this struggle because I wouldn't be here without it. Now, Philadelphia, some people benefited from a broken, dysfunctional system. Some people don't want us to fix the problem because the money is in the treatment and not the cure. That's a real thing, Philadelphia. If you were a part of the very small group that benefited from the dysfunction of the system, you don't want it to stop. And when I, was talking to my team about, and I said this yesterday, I thought about Managing Director Adam Teal, who led our work when we were trying to build out our long-term care, treatment, and housing portion of a wellness ecosystem that didn't exist before us doing our work and attempting to address the opioid crisis and open air drug sales and, quite frankly, the quality of life that we're working now to try to address over in Kensington. I didn't understand why people would complain when they saw that Marikey, Gaudenzia House, the Black Doctors, COVID-19 Consortium, when we think about all of the hospitals and subject matter experts in substance use disorder and addiction, when they were at the table helping us and we were connecting people to services, I kept saying to them, MDOT, I don't get it. Any additional resource to help the people who are most vulnerable and in need of help, I don't understand why that's not being lifted up. And then I learned a cold fact. We're fixing the problem now. And maybe some of the people who benefited financially with the broken system, they understand that the gravy train is over when we fix the system. And that's what we're going to do right now. I refuse to allow us to continue along that line. So what have we done here today? We've spent the last, I'm going to say year and a half, but several months in particular, working to develop programs that run in line with the law while continuing to generate outcomes consistent with our city's values. And that's fairness, that's equality, that's inclusion, and that's economic opportunity for all. Nadir, thank you for affirming what I don't like to hear people talk about. I just came from a forum I presented at, last week, and folks are talking about Harvard economist Raj Chetty's research on economic mobility that had the Philadelphia area place 50 out of 50 as it relates to economic mobility, with the most strain being on communities that have not been invested in. Don't tell me about trying to preserve a system that didn't work. Help is on the way and we're going to fix it. Why? This work is intentional. We're going to bring a new way of focusing on small and local businesses here in Philadelphia. And we're going to do it to make it work. We're going to sign a new executive order in a few minutes outlining this new and intentional Philadelphia way of working on these issues in our city. And my promise to you, the people of Philadelphia, is for you to remember that I will never forget that out of crisis can come opportunity. With that being said, I'm going to sign the executive order, and then we are going to come back and answer any questions you may have. Nadir, Vanessa, the whole
Renee.
team, Donna, Ron Hovey. No pressure, Ron, Procurement Commissioner, no pressure.
No pressure.
Where's Nadir? No pressure, Nadir.
Lynn Newsome.
Is Lynn here?
I think I saw Lynn in the back.
Is she here? She,
Never come up.
Lynn, you're lucky I didn't know you were over there because I would have come back there to get you. Come on over here with us. Lynn has been on the front lines of this work for a long, long time. Local and small businesses, help is on the way here in the city of Philadelphia. And these are the people who are going to get it started. Thank you. Now, here's the good stuff. Let's begin answering your questions. And before I start answering the questions, I want to affirm this. Please do not attempt to hold me accountable or expect me and or my administration to respond to people whose stories are already written. They have already told us what the outcome of our programming is going to be, and they hadn't even read the executive order. They hadn't even, they don't even know about our work to centralize our procurement process. Last night, I was so nervous at our event because, Della Clark, and if you know anything about Della Clark's going to hold your feet to the fire. Della Clark attempted the fist bump and said, Mayor, I need you to commit to $1 billion. And she said, you gonna fist bump? I said, no, I can't fist bump over $1 billion because I thought she was talking about a bill, Vince. I thought she was talking about $1 billion appropriation from the city of Philadelphia. I said, no, I can't fist bump about that. But what Della affirmed was true. And you need to know that it is a goal. It is a goal. She was talking about $1 billion in procurement. $1 billion in procurement. Big goals, big steps. She talked about, if you listen to the folks who were present, I can't think of, who was the young lady, Tiffany, who spoke? And she, you know, it's Valerie Cofield. She says, well, the first thing you need to do, the city of Philadelphia has to fix how long it takes to get paid if you do have a contract with the city of Philadelphia. And then I think Jeff was there, Jeff Hornstein from the Economy League. I was going to see who was going to say, well, how long it would take. And Jeff said 6 months. 6 months is too long. If you're a business in the city of Philadelphia, what you need is predictability. So I want you to imagine, which is why you heard the team affirm public-private partnerships. We can't just think about this in isolation as the city of Philadelphia. We have to think about all of the industries that are thriving here in the city. So you think about obviously local government, but you think about the private sector and then our nonprofit and philanthropic communities. So I want you to think about what it would mean if you, I'm just picking on these a few because of the scale of business that they do. I want you to think about the city of Philadelphia working in partnership with the University of Pennsylvania, Comcast and Jeff, and those are just the ones that can come to mind right now. I want you to think about all of us at the table trying to figure out a way to scale access to these contracting operations and opportunities in a very intentional way. I want you to think about how we would reduce the time tax for businesses, right? I want you to think about how that access to capital, if the city of Philadelphia has a certain amount of dollars that we are able to invest, what happens when, there is matching support that comes from the philanthropic community in the private sector? Don't take it from me. Just look at what we just rolled out with you as it related to SNAP. City of Philadelphia couldn't do that alone. That was state government. That was the philanthropic community and the private sector. We did it together. I'll take the first question from Anna.
On the one hand, you're saying there was a legal imperative to do this. On the other, you're saying the previous program wasn't working. Did you want to do this or were you forced to?
No, if you will remember on the trail, something I created when I became mayor of the city of Philadelphia was the Office of Minority Business Success. It was new. Why? Because on the trail, it became very clear to me that the program the city of Philadelphia had in existence, and we have been operating and so-called improving for over 40 years, it was not yielding the kind of results that we needed to be successful in ensuring that diverse constituencies had access to the opportunity to not just do business, here we go, not just do business, but to thrive. And to grow their scale, which is why you heard Nadir talk about, I think you said emerging, and then you talked about the middle, different levels. So one, we were already working on this long before I get a city solicitor and her legal team, along with that outside counsel, saying to us, this is the U.S. Supreme Court's ruling. This is what the city of Philadelphia proper is facing as a result of the legal landscape that we find ourselves in. And this is what we need to do to ensure that the city of Philadelphia is functioning in accordance with that legal precedent. And so while we're working, because we know that the system is broken, when the city solicitor tells me what the legal landscape is, yes, it does push us to work more expeditiously in knowing that we have to make these adjustments now. So maybe the length of, I'll tell you what it addressed, the runway. I thought I had more runway. I thought I had more time. That was just for you, Atif, the runway. I thought I had more time, but when the city solicitor comes and she lets me know, that no, we have to address this now, and you need to know how this impacts not just that Office of Minority Business Success that you've established since you've been the mayor, but I want you to think about our overall OEO work and the department, the office, and everything that we've done. And so that's when you begin to see this restructuring. We were already working on that. You heard Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley when I called her on the phone and asked her to come and to join us and become a leader in this administration. That was a part and is a part of her portfolio. So we have been working on that, but the legal landscape, it forced us to move quicker. I'm gonna come. Go ahead. Let me follow up. Go ahead, Anna.
How will each of the tiers of the small businesses be defined? And will
I want Nadir to explain that.
will all the MBEs have to re-register?
So no, all MBEs do not have to be registered. They're going to be grandfathered into the new small business program. So how we define emerging small business is a firm that's new in the market, less than 20 employees with a certain amount of revenues being generated for their first year. The mid-market small businesses will be less than 100 employees with revenues that don't exceed the SBA side standard. And the middle market tier is pretty much mirroring the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania's diversity and inclusion's small business program, where a firm has to have less than 750 employees.
City solicitor Anna, she was going back to your question about, well, the legal precedent either encouraged you or you already knew it was broken. What's the answer? She said the legal precedent and the legal landscape, it forced us into a tush-push scenario. And that's exactly what just happened. I'm sorry. Yes, go ahead, Pat.
Can you explain how the
I'm sorry, go ahead, Pat.
Can you explain how the EO actually helps you reach your goals for minority businesses?
Yes.
So under the new program, there's a heavy emphasis on business development that didn't exist under the old model. So it's a heavy emphasis on business development and getting firms capital ready.
And are there percentages that are set aside for the?
So based on how a firm qualifies under each small business tier, right, we will be able to narrowly tailor a specific target or range on our city procurements.
Yes, Ernest.
I have a question and a follow-up that I'd like to get answered. So, the administration says that they did not know, that they've been working on it before the Trump administration came into office. There were policies and things that were advocated by this administration through the 76ers arena. There was a quota that was promoted by the 76ers arena around minority-owned, black-owned businesses, and a lot of those type of policies, based on what I'm hearing here, would have not flew under the law. But yet, if this administration knew about this, why were they still touting it and championing it? You're the headquarters of the African American Chamber of Commerce. That was another partner that you all were partnering with on that arena and on that deal specifically. And so, when did you know that that policy would have not flew?
Stop. I'm gonna let just come on. Yeah.
When did you not know that that policy or those initiatives that you were promoting would have not flew, given the fact that this was something that you already knew about prior to the Trump administration?
So, one, Ernest, thank you for that question. I think it's an appropriate one, given the engagement and quite frankly the level of intensity of the framework for that communication regarding that potential arena on East Market Street, and the CBA in particular is what you're referencing, and the numbers, the target numbers. First, I want to affirm this to you. I was sworn in on January the 2nd of 2024, and my commitment to ensuring that diversity, equity, and inclusion was a strong foundation, and this administration and all that we do is evident in the creation of the Office of Minority Business Success that I created that never existed in the city of Philadelphia before. And that was the department whose responsibility it would be, in my mind, to fix that broken system that you keep hearing me reference. While we are building out that office and we are doing that work, we realize that the way we've been structured, the creation of that office, it is not enough. That siloed approach that you just heard Chief Deputy Mayor Vanessa Garrett Harley talked about, that requires sort of institutional and structural change in bureaucracies that now we're going to have to move departments from other departments to get everyone together so that we can all be moving on one accord. That's one. Next, I want to talk about the timing because that's extremely important to answer your question. Now, folks may not like the answer, but this is a real thing. When did you all come and brief me after you had done all of your research, after you and your team get to the conclusion of where you are, and you know, before we take this to the mayor, she's going to ask us what was the second outside opinion. That's the third party independent verifier. Come over and give an overview about that timeline because
Yes,
that's
sir.
important.
Let me give you the timeline specifically, and I understand your question because we're finishing the arena deal at the end of the calendar year, which is when the decision came down from the Third Circuit, right? And when we tried for a rehearing and we lost, and when we were simultaneously getting our constitutional experts on board to look at that decision with respect to PLAs was going to affect our OEO program. So that was all happening simultaneously. It was 6 months till we got final conclusion with our experts and had built out the program. So we didn't brief the mayor till June of this year on what for the final decision on how we were going to pivot and do small and local business.
Wait a minute. You look a little confused. I want you to go
That's
back.
after the Trump administration. That decision, you said 6 months, that's after Trump was in
I'm going to be clear on the record. I'm going to be really clear with you here. My advice would be the same, no matter if it was Donald Trump or Kamala Harris in the White House, because this is case law. This is Supreme Court case law, Third Circuit case law, and cases from around the country. It does not matter to me who's in the White House. Presidents come and go, governors come and go, mayors come and go, but this is Supreme Court precedent.
I get that, but what I'm getting to is that after that deal, collapsed,
That's right.
in January, this administration was still touting, still working on a new plan in the same way with black-owned businesses, even after
Well,
that deal. And the rationale, hold on.
So, what I need you to tell me, you said we were working on a new plan after it was clear that there would be a joint venture, there would be no arena on Market Street. What are you referencing that I don't know about?
I'm saying you said this, you had Regina Harrison, you had the black businesses there to say that there was, because I asked the question then, and my question specifically was, now that this deal collapsed, what is going to be in the works for black-owned businesses at that arena? And you said we were going to work on a plan that we were going to do, and I don't know if there is a plan, I don't know what the plan is. But
Oh,
I'm asking, I know this plan here, but were you communicating with these commerces and these small businesses before this decision that happened in June was finalized?
So-
Was there a
so-
work with them on that new plan, or are they now finding this out now?
So one, thank you, Renee. I don't know, I'm Baptist Philadelphia. In the Baptist church, we would say, make it plain. I don't know how much plainer you could have made that schedule. And so thank you for affirming for the record that politics is not what is driving this decision making, that we are talking about case law that has changed the legal landscape about how the city of Philadelphia functions. And I have mayor's business roundtables, and we talk with the African American Chamber, all of the chambers, and not just about the framework of what a new agreement could look like with the city of Philadelphia and the 76ers and Comcast. Those values, those programs, and those plans, those things are still things that we continue right now to have to hash out. We can't have a new stadium, a deal, before figuring out how we get there. The framework of how we get there will be now in accordance with what the city solicitor just outlined for us. So while it may not look exactly the same, what Nadir has said is small and local will be keys for us. But the ultimate goals and objectives about what we extract, nothing about that is going to change. And as a matter of fact, I want to affirm for those people who were a part of the 20%, and that's the dysfunctional system, and they were accustomed to the city of Philadelphia working along those lines, those days are over. We are going to make access to economic opportunity for all, and especially our small and local businesses. It will be a priority. The data will affirm it. We will be transparent about it. You will see it through our Philly Stat 360. It won't be in somebody's office in a book on a shelf collecting dust. We will be very transparent. And on today now, Vince, because I know she's not talking about $1 billion appropriation from the city of Philadelphia. She's talking about procurement. Nadir and Commissioner Hovey, they will be working out processes to streamline the contracting process. How do we get these dollars to businesses so more of them can benefit from from having an opportunity to do business with us, and their cash flow doesn't become a problem? So that prompt pay issue, we're dealing with that. In addition to that, how are we marketing these opportunities? How are we scaling them? I'm thinking about Jeff and the Economy League and him saying, what about Penn? What about Jeff? What about these other, private sector institutions? If local government, philanthropic community, and private sector are working together, now maybe we can create some scalable opportunities that you can budget for, not for 1 year, but for 3 years. How do we know it'll work, Ernest? We don't know. Because as usual, if you look at many of the things that we're doing in this administration, we're doing things in a way that they've never been done before. But what I do know is that the status quo, this administration is at war with the status quo. We're not going to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome. And we're going to do what we believe is in the best interest of the city. So I'm looking forward to letting you know when we do well, Philadelphia, to letting you know what the numbers look like and whether or not we're meeting the mark. And I can't do a thing about those people who will bury this program and have already buried it. And I just signed the executive order on today. I can't do anything about that. The only thing I can do is tell you what I told you on the trail. Don't simply listen to what I say. Watch what I do. And I mean that right now for this entire Parker administration. Watch the work that comes from it. Is there?
We have a few over here.
Yeah, Marco.
Hi, thanks. So I know that there aren't any specific numbers in the legislation, or you haven't put anything linked yet. Do you have a ballpark number, either a ratio or dollar amount, of what you would like to see in terms of private, philanthropic, outside money to match what the city's going to put in to help these businesses scale and to put that up?
Marco, Marco, you just asked the Sherelle Parker question. I would say no. Get to the meat of the matter. I keep hearing you mention this $1 billion in procurement. Are you prepared today to say that the city of Philadelphia goal is $1 billion, in procurement opportunities for local and small businesses that you can scale or match with this much from the private sector? I cannot do that right now, Marco. But this is what I do commit to you and every Philadelphia Tribune a reader, that as our program progresses and we are building it out and we're able now to see how we're progressing, because those numbers are transparent, I will come to you, Marco, and we will sit down with you in the Philadelphia Tribune and we will share what those numbers are. But I cannot marry at this point in time the city of Philadelphia to any particular dollar amount. Was there I'm sorry, this gentleman, yes.
Hi, I just got a quick question. Do you know how much the city spent through these contracts?
Oh, good question.
Year? What percentage of those went to MWB?
You have the local spend, the total. Oh, go ahead, please.
So we spend about $4 billion in total, including capital.
do you know what percentage of that went to MWBEs?
We'd have to get back to you on that.
Okay, I can follow up.
Yeah,
But you said the total spend, what number was that?
about 4 billion. About 4 billion. And I think the important thing is through the formal programs for local businesses, which also sort of coincides with small and diverse businesses, has sort of been a lagging indicator, and firms that win that are small businesses in other ways have succeeded. So we're looking at new ways to create incentives for the local and small businesses.
Ron, I'm sorry. You're new to Philadelphia, so you have to tell them your name and your title and tell them where you were before you got here.
I'm Ron Hovey, and I'm the procurement commissioner for the city, and I've been here since St. Patrick's Day. So it's an easy day to remember. And I came here as from the chief procurement officer position at New Jersey Transit.
Anna?
Have you had conversations with city council about this shift, and is there anything that needs to be done legislatively to bring the city's code into
Fair.
compliance with the new legal precedent?
Fair, Anna, and I really do appreciate and respect that that question. Let me also go back now because I want to talk about the article. I think you wrote it or somebody wrote it over at the Enquirer. While you heard me talk about, the amount of time and or runway we had to sort of unveil our program. For those who are familiar with me and how I work in earnest, you were just, taking us back to a moment when we were working on that arena project. If you are thinking about that process and how we worked, you will know that communicating directly with to the public, along with like budget briefings and town hall meetings, and then briefing our legislative body here, having meetings with the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus, the Philadelphia delegation in Harrisburg, our congressional delegation. There are a sea of people who we have to meet with and brief on our policy. However, when you talked about what, sort of pushed us and said we had to move faster, it was also the article. Because when the article came out, people then obviously began to have questions. And again, I'm being very transparent with you right now. And so we had to say, listen, you're on the schedule for us to make sure we're having these conversations with. Have we talked to our city council president? Yes, we've communicated with him. We shared the executive order and we've been talking. But if you know Council President Kenyatta Johnson, he says immediately, I know what you have to do. I understand how your timeline has been expedited. You thought you had more time, but now you don't. You need to get in here and you need to brief my members immediately. The council president is right. This is our legislative body. They're going to get a great deal of questions and they have concerns about this. We have to do that with them. The state. Why? We just got a call from some members of the Pennsylvania Legislative Black Caucus. I don't know if Chief Deputy Mayor Sincere Harris is here. They're working on their own issues at the state level right now. Immediately, we want a briefing. We want that executive order. We want to see how this is going to impact our constituency. So, now do I have to sort of rewind? I had to fast track. But now I have to rewind and go back to the standard operating procedure that you described was a part of what we went through during that arena process. That means public meetings, in different neighborhoods, with their small business leaders. That means all of the meetings you just heard me describe. So, Anna, do we have a whole lot of work to do? Yes, Philadelphia, we do. And we're going to do it the only way I know how to do it. And we're going to take it to the people. Okay, thank you all so very much.
Thank you.
You were great.
Oh, thank you.